As we've obviously made clear now, one of the most important truths about chronic symptoms, and one that most people have never been taught, is that they are made pretty much of emotion. Not metaphorically in a vague, it's all in your head kind of way, but literally. They are the physical echoes of feelings that were never allowed to move through the body to completion. It may sound strange at first. Most of us think of emotion as thoughts about how we feel. Sadness, anger, fear, joy, happening in our mind. But emotions are not thoughts, they are deeply physical events. They live in your muscles, your hormones, your breath, your heart rate and your gut. They are the body's ancient language, and they evolved to keep you safe, guide your behaviour and help you adapt to your environment. When our emotions are allowed to just naturally arise and move, they do their job and then they pass. When they are blocked though, when we suppress them, avoid them, are overwhelmed by them, they don't simply vanish. They stay stored as unfinished biological impulses. And the more we do this consciously, eventually this becomes unconscious. So there are emotions that are now stored in your body that you don't even know are there. And over time, this storage gets full. They shape our nervous system because they're held in the body and the nervous system, our tissues, and even our perception of the world. And eventually, they speak through symptoms. Understanding this, really feeling the truth of it, is one of the most important steps you can ever take in life and in healing your mind-body condition. So emotions are not just feelings, they are biological events. The word emotion comes from the Latin emovere, meaning to move out. And that's exactly what an emotion is, an impulse designed to move through you, to carry information and guide you to act. It brings the outside world inside. It's your instinct. It tells you what is for you and what's not for you. It's your compass, your guidance. So when you feel anger, it starts subconsciously as a feeling that moves up to the body to make meaning of and then to act. Your body releases adrenaline and your muscles tense to protect your boundaries. When you feel fear, your pupils dilate, your heart races and blood is sent to your legs to prepare you to run. And this all happens below thinking conscious awareness. When you feel grief, your body slows. It draws inward and releases tears to help you let go. Each emotion is a full loop, a full body cascade involving the nervous systems, hormones, muscles, fascia and organs. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio calls emotions the bridge between the body and the mind. They are how the mind knows what's actually happening because they come through the body as information. They are how our inner world speaks to our outer behaviour. And here's the key. When an emotion completes its natural cycles, arises, peaks and passes, all within about 90 seconds, the body simply returns to balance. The energy is redistributed and life just continues. But when that cycle is interrupted, the energy behind it, behind that emotion, remains active. It doesn't disappear, it looks for another way out eventually. So what happens when these emotions are blocked, which is what is the situation here? There are so many reasons, as we've alluded to already, where emotions don't get a chance to complete their natural arc. Maybe we are told as a child that anger was bad, you learned how to hold it. Maybe fear wasn't safe to show, so you pushed it down. Maybe grief felt too overwhelming and too big, and there was no one to witness your grief, so you cut it off, you repressed it. Each time this happens, the body's natural emotional energy, which has already been created, becomes frozen midstream. The impulse to cry, move, shout, shake or collapse is held back, is interrupted, becomes frozen without us even realising it after time. And in time, this incompleted impulse becomes stored as a pattern in the nervous system and tissues. The muscles that would have struck out in anger stay tight because they didn't get the chance to complete that arc. The diaphragm that would have sobbed in grief stays frozen, and the legs that would have run in fear stay heavy and immobile. And these incomplete biological movements create chronic tension altered hormonal patterns and nervous system dysregulation, as we know. And over the years, that internal holding often transforms into chronic symptoms. The symptoms are the proxy for the emotion never felt. So the pain, the fatigue, the gut problems, the headaches, and the anxiety, and more. Bessel van der Kolk famously wrote, "The body keeps the score." It remembers every emotion and holds every emotion we never had the chance to feel to completion. Every impulse we shut down, every emotion we weren't even aware that was being issued under consciousness because once we had to block it off. Every truth we swallowed. And eventually it speaks, that memory, not in words, but in symptoms. If you live with chronic symptoms, one of the most radical and healing shifts you can start to make is to see these symptoms as messages, not as enemies. Very often the symptom is the body's attempt to express that emotion that was never expressed. For example, your back pain or tension might represent anger that was never allowed to be enacted to protect you, to protect your boundary. Chronic fatigue may mirror grief or hopelessness that was too overwhelming to feel. Dizziness or dissociation might echo a fear that was never fully processed. Gut issues might point to anxiety, disgust, or powerlessness held deep in the visceral core, or any combination. That was just an example, but they're all pointing to something at some point we couldn't actually feel in the moment, and its energy has been held, waiting to complete its arc, and is now coming through symptoms. Each person, your system will choose a different symptom for you based on your history, your biology, nature and nurture. Either way, it is an emotion coming back to consciousness. And it's coming through sensation because the language of the body is sensation and emotion. If we cannot cry, the body may ache for us. If we cannot scream, it may tighten our muscles instead. If we cannot run, it may drain our energy to keep us still. These are not random malfunctions. They are meaningful expressions, physical metaphors for emotional truths. Jung put it simply, and Jung is somebody we talk about a lot here, famous Swiss-German psychologist, psychiatrist, and depth psychologist, a bit more than your average psychiatrist, shall we say. He said that the body is the shadow of the soul, and what the psyche cannot face in consciousness will eventually appear in the body, the soma. The symptom is the shadow trying to become known. If emotion is so central to health, why do we suppress it? Because at some point in our lives, as I said, it just wasn't safe to feel it. From infancy onwards, we learn which emotions, which aspects of us are acceptable and which are not. A baby who is met with warmth when it cries learns that sadness and to express whatever it feels is safe. A child who is punished for anger learns that anger is dangerous. And over time, the nervous system wires itself to avoid certain feelings altogether, to help us. It's like, well, just do a shorthand. We don't do that. We do this. Let's just make it into an automatic pattern and pop it into the subconscious to free up more working memory. Makes sense. Cultural conditioning adds another layer. Many societies value control, composure, and positivity. Vulnerability, rage, grief, these are often treated as weaknesses. So we learn to override them, to stay in control, to be positive, to be strong, to stay calm, whatever. And this is at the cost of our own truth. And our instinct is our truth, our emotion is our truth. Over time, this suppression becomes, as I say, automatic. Long after the original environment has changed, the body still blocks these forbidden feelings. Why? Because the pattern is still running unconsciously, unbeknownst to us. And it just keeps running. We feel it in the tight muscles, the altered breathing, the numbing sensations, the fact that we've dysregulated as a result of not having our emotions in fully flowing form. And when all else fails, it creates symptoms to contain the emotional energy. And the irony is that the very mechanism designed to protect us from pain becomes, therefore, the source of our suffering. Modern neuroscience supports this picture. Emotional processing is not just a mental task. It is a complex collaboration between multiple brain regions in the body. The limbic system, especially the amygdala, scans for emotional salience and triggers survival responses. It's looking for what's coming into consciousness, and then the hypothalamus and the insula that monitors the internal states, the heartbeats, the breath, the tension, hormonal signals that they receive give you a sense of what the emotion is. The prefrontal cortex helps make sense of this and integrate these feelings. Makes meaning. It's brought that to us. When the emotion is blocked or suppressed, this network goes completely out of balance. The amygdala just stays overactive, scanning constantly for threat. The insula becomes hypersensitive, amplifying body sensation, constantly looking for the reason why the alarm is on. The prefrontal cortex loses its regulating influence, and the body remains in a state of unfinished business, unfinished readiness. Muscles tensed, hormones elevated, immune system on alert. We become, we are dysregulated. And this is why unfelt emotion is not in your head. It is in your entire body-brain system. And until that stored energy is felt and allowed to metabolize, just like a meal you've eaten, you have to let it go through to digest, the body will continue to speak through these symptoms. Carl Jung spent much of his life exploring what happened to the parts of us we reject. He called them the shadow, the disowned aspects of our psyche, that's the whole of our conscious and unconscious mind, that when they're repressed, these parts don't disappear but grow more powerful. And this is when they're held out of the view that we see in consciousness in the unconscious. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Because we keep just doing the same thing over and over again, not knowing that there are old algorithms effectively running in our computer programs that are still keeping everything going. That version of us we had to be in the past. And this is what happens with emotion. The anger we suppress does not vanish. It directs our body into tension, inflammation, dysregulation, autoimmune activity. The grief we bury does not dissolve. It directs our energy into exhaustion. The fear we deny doesn't stop existing. It directs our nervous system into chronic vigilance and anxiety. The symptom, therefore, is this shadow, these old emotions and instincts of ours made flesh. The psyche's attempt to bring the unconscious into awareness through the only medium left, the body. And this is profoundly good news, because if a symptom is a message, it means there's something we can listen to and work with, rather than something to fear or fight. And we have to feel. We have to feel to heal. If suppressed emotion contributes to chronic symptoms, then first part of the healing journey is to feel again and come back to our body, to feel fully and safely without judgment. Excuse me. This doesn't mean forcing feelings or digging for trauma or trying to release emotions. It means creating space for whatever is arising in the moment, the symptom, sensation, knowing it's an unfelt emotion. And we have to do this in the body. You cannot think your way through this. This is held in the body, and it's only when we come into the body with our awareness that it's allowed to move through. It means we have to learn the language of the body, and when you do it, you will feel the heat, the pressure, the tingling, the tightness, the heaviness, and eventually the movement and the emotion behind it in time. It means letting the sensations express themselves, this energy to come out from the muscles, out from the tissue, out from the nervous system, up to continue the journey that was once interrupted years ago, so it can complete bit by bit by bit, without shutting them down again, ever, without trying to calm them, without trying to interrupt them, medicate them, distract from them, or anything. And this is a wordless experience. When we do this, as each emotion, because there will be thousands of repressed emotions in our back catalogue, in our backlog, when each is allowed to express itself and complete its arc, as it should have done originally in 1.5 minutes, something remarkable happens. The muscles will release, the breath will deepen, circulation improves, the nervous system shifts out of survival mode. The symptoms may often soften or change, even that it won't disappear immediately, but the underlying charge begins to dissolve, and then it goes round again. We have to do this thousands of times before the whole charge is complete, because if we did it all in one go, it would totally overwhelm and traumatize us, which is why we don't do extensive strong breath work, trying to release trauma, taking plant medicines, doing any of these things, because it's too much and it will just go back and get held in the body again, because it has to be at an amount that can be integrated and fully digested, which means we just work with what's there. This is why so many people, the more we do this, it will take time as we start to show safety in the body by just allowing ourselves to be with the pain, the fear, the buzzing, the tightness, the burning, whatever it is. We'll start to experience deep waves of emotion eventually. Sometimes you're just there with the numbness for weeks or months. As it starts to thaw, it's your willingness to be in the body which will start to indicate, oh, right, it's now safe for us to continue this journey and unfreeze. People will experience sobbing, trembling, shaking during these healings. These are what we want. They're not setbacks. That buzzing, that vibrating, these are the body's way of finishing what it started years ago. This is the energy coming out of the body, now trying to complete and move through the body. The completion of emotional cycles that were once frozen in time. Feeling is not always easy. It's going to feel extremely strong. Our symptoms are strong. The emotions about the sensations are strong. The fear about the fear about the symptom fronting for the fear is going to be very unpleasant. And for many people, suppressed emotion is tied to painful memories on top of which, or times when just feeling was dangerous. Approaching it requires gentleness, patience, routine, and compassion. Sorry, I've been talking so much. It often helps to build the foundation of safety first, just through simply taking moments at a time to be in the body and allow what's there. And we'll talk more, obviously, extensively in this channel about allowing and what it is, because it's a skill to be with something that we've always wanted to run away from because it feels so unpleasant. However, it feeling unpleasant doesn't mean it's dangerous. It's actually the thing we want. And the only way out is through. If we don't want it, we need to learn to stand back and let it move through. Whereas before we've just been trying to push it back. And it's our being with the sensation. This is through being in a structured daily rhythm that the body knows it's safe to release. The nervous system knows it's safe to release. The tissues know it's safe to release. And we build this capacity. Something will start to shift. Emotions that once felt unbearable begin to move through like weather systems, intense but temporary, purposeful and cleansing. And as they do, the body no longer needs to hold on to them in the form of symptoms. This is never about fixing yourself. It's about befriending yourself. It's about letting every part of you, even the ones you once rejected, your emotions, your cries, your fear, your instincts, find a place back in the whole. So the energy can just come back for vitality, growth, and wellness. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Feeling is how we do that. So you really need to start seeing your symptoms in a completely new way. Your symptoms are not malfunctions, but an emotion in disguise. What if your pain is anger asking to be felt? Your fatigue, grief asking to be felt? Your anxiety, fear is basic old fear asking to be met with safety for you to allow it to move through you, however horrible it feels. And what if your body is not betraying you, but just speaking through you to the parts that never had a voice to give you back this energy? And this is the essence of true mind-body healing. It is the journey of turning towards what we once turned away from. It is the journey of allowing the natural wisdom of the body to complete what it once had to stop, interrupt, and couldn't finish. Letting the body's language become our guide, being embodied, getting out of our heads and into our bodies over time, and trusting that what we feel is not the enemy, but the path. The body does not lie. It cannot pretend. It tells the truth of our lives in sensation, tension, and symptom. And when we learn to listen, to feel, and to allow what's there, and to trust the body knows what it's doing as it moves this energy, this chaotic energy, it seems to us, around, there is no chaos. It just feels incredibly intense. Great, exacting order to it. If we can trust that this becomes the doorway through which our healing enters. So, key takeaways here. Emotions are physical. They are biological events, survival events, unfelt emotional experiences that are now held in the body, and they involve whole body, not just thoughts in the mind. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They remain stored in the body and will manifest later as chronic symptoms when the storage is just too full. When the tissues and the nervous system cannot hold the charge any longer, they will discharge as symptoms. Symptoms are expressing what was never expressed. They are the body's language for unspoken emotional truths. We learn to suppress emotions for safety. Early experiences and cultural conditioning has taught us what feelings were acceptable, which were allowed, and what were not allowed. Feeling is healing. We have to allow the emotions to arise in the body and complete their natural cycle, which will help dissolve the underlying charge that fuels the symptoms, and the symptoms no longer need to be there. Symptoms are not random. They are meaningful. They are the voice of everything that was once too much to feel, asking now to be felt, integrated, and completed, to be released naturally, as they've always wanted to do. So healing begins not by doing more or calming or having to think your way out of it, but by listening more deeply, wordlessly, in the body, and just letting it do its thing. And by trusting that whatever arises within you, however awful it feels, is not an obstacle, but the key.